The scream tore through the apartment as Emily Parker clutched Lily Parker against her chest. Her ex-husband, Michael Parker, glared with eyes burning in betrayal, his hand gripping the doorframe before he shoved it closed with a crash. The walls trembled, and the echo of the slam carried through the night. Emily's pulse hammered as she whispered, "I've got you, Lily. He won't break us." Outside, the wail of sirens sliced through the silence, the sound of chaos drawing closer. The broken glass on the floor shimmered under the streetlight's glow. Emily's breath came ragged, fear mingling with fury. She pressed her cheek to her daughter's hair, rocking gently as Lily trembled in her arms. Her mind screamed questions. How did it come to this? How much more could she take? A single thought anchored her: protect Lily, no matter the cost. The silence after Michael's departure was heavier than the scream that had begun the night. Emily lowered herself to the floor, clutching Lily against her chest, rocking in slow circles as if motion alone could restore order. The apartment smelled of dust and fear, the broken chair and shattered glass reminders of his rage. Emily whispered, "It's just us now, Lily. No one can hurt you while I'm here." Her own voice shook, betraying the fear she tried to hide. She pressed her lips to Lily's hair, inhaling the scent of innocence she fought desperately to protect. Her heartbeat thundered, but her arms tightened, forming a shield. In that fragile moment, she realized she had crossed an invisible line. There was no going back. The storm had already begun, and she would fight it, even if she stood alone. Later that night, Emily reached for her phone with trembling fingers. The cracked screen reflected her pale face, eyes red with exhaustion. She dialed Sarah Miller, her closest friend, the one who had always answered when no one else did. "Sarah," Emily whispered, her voice breaking. "He's gone, but he'll be back. I don't know how much more I can take." Sarah's voice came through steady, urging her to breathe, to hold on, to remember she was stronger than the storm. Emily clutched the phone tighter, tears dripping onto the screen. She wanted to believe Sarah, but fear clawed at her chest. The silence of the apartment seemed alive, heavy with threats. Her gaze fell on Lily, asleep at last, curled up in a blanket, innocence wrapped in fragile dreams. Emily swore quietly to herself. She would not let the world take that peace away. The knock on the door came sharp, 3 raps cutting through the silence. Emily froze, clutching Lily's blanket tighter around her daughter's small form. A deep voice called, "Police, ma'am." Reluctantly, Emily opened the door to 2 uniformed officers, their flashlights cutting through the dim apartment. The taller one asked questions about Michael, his tone professional, almost cold. Emily answered softly, her voice breaking only when describing the violence. I have to keep Lily safe," she repeated like a prayer. The officers exchanged looks, their pens scratching notes, their presence both a comfort and a reminder of how fragile her world had become. The flashing siren lights outside faded, leaving only shadows and the distant hum of the city. Emily closed the door behind them and leaned her back against it, sliding to the floor in silent exhaustion. When the officers left, Emily turned back to Lily's room. The small lamp on the dresser cast a golden halo across the child's bed. Lily stirred in her sleep, murmuring a dream only she could hear. Emily sank down beside her, brushing curls from her forehead. Her chest tightened with love and dread, 2 forces that warred endlessly inside her. She whispered, "You're my everything, Lily. I'll fight until my last breath to keep you safe." The words were soft, but they carried the weight of a vow stronger than steel. She closed her eyes for a moment, exhaustion dragging her down, yet resolve kept her upright. Tomorrow would bring battles, lawyers, accusations, betrayal. But tonight, she allowed herself this fragile peace. In the quiet rhythm of Lily's breath, Emily found the strength to face the storm waiting outside. Morning light spilled weakly into the apartment, painting the cracks in the walls with dull gold. Emily Parker sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a chipped mug that trembled with her grip. Sleep had been shallow, broken by echoes of Michael's voice and Lily's whimpers. Memories surged, nights working double shifts, meals skipped so Lily could eat, laughter forced through exhaustion. Each sacrifice weighed heavy, yet she endured because love demanded it. "Everything I do is for you, Lily," she whispered into the empty room. Her reflection in the mug revealed eyes haunted by fear, but glowing faintly with resolve. The world had tried to break her before, but she had survived. Now betrayal gnawed at her spirit, threatening to undo years of fragile progress. Still, deep inside, Emily's will hardened. She would not surrender her child's future to anyone. Later that day, Sarah Miller arrived, her presence filling the silence like a shield. She dropped her coat over a chair and wrapped Emily in a firm embrace. "You're not alone in this," Sarah said with conviction. Emily clung to her, the tears she had been holding back spilling freely now. "I can't lose Lily, Sarah. He'll do anything to destroy me." Sarah pulled back, her eyes sharp with honesty. "You're stronger than you think, Emily, but betrayal cuts deepest. You need to be ready for people you trust to fail you." Emily nodded, fear twisting with gratitude. She had leaned on Sarah through years of hardship, and now, once again, her friend's presence was a lifeline. But deep in Emily's heart she wondered, what if even Sarah couldn't hold the weight of what was coming? Emily's workplace felt colder than usual. The hum of computers and the chatter of coworkers blurred around her as she sat at her desk, staring at paperwork she couldn't focus on. Her manager's glance carried impatience, the unspoken warning that her struggles were beginning to show. She pressed her pen against the page, fighting the weight of exhaustion. Lily's face filled her thoughts. She couldn't afford to lose this job, not now. She forced a smile when a colleague passed, but it cracked the moment they walked away. "Hold it together, Emily," she muttered under her breath, the words a fragile chant. She had carried responsibilities heavier than this, but betrayal at home had cracked her armor. The desk lamp illuminated the bags under her eyes, and still she straightened her shoulders, willing herself to survive one more day. That night, Emily sat alone on the edge of her bed, an old photo album spread across her lap. She traced her fingers over faded images of her mother, a woman whose wisdom still echoed in memory. "Mom, what would you tell me now?" she whispered into the dim room. The silence answered with ghosts of lessons past, patience, courage, and sacrifice. She remembered her mother's voice, firm yet loving, urging her never to give up, even when the world turned cruel. Tears blurred the photos, blending past and present. Emily realized she carried her mother's strength within her, even if she doubted herself. She closed the album with care, holding it against her chest as though it still carried warmth. "I'll make you proud," she vowed softly, knowing her mother's spirit would guide her in battles ahead. As the night deepened, Emily leaned over Lily's bed, brushing curls from her daughter's forehead. Lily stirred, eyes fluttering half awake, whispering, "Mommy, are we safe?" Emily's chest tightened, her heart breaking at the question. She smiled through the ache and whispered, "Always, Lily. I promise." The words carried the weight of every sleepless night, every sacrifice, every wound endured for love. Lily nestled back into sleep, her breath soft against the pillow. Emily sat there watching, drawing strength from her child's fragile peace. The shadows on the wall loomed large, reminders of threats still near, but Emily's resolve sharpened. "No matter what, I'll fight for you," she said, her voice steady now. The apartment held its silence, but for the first time, it felt less like defeat and more like the calm before a storm she was ready to face. The letter arrived in a plain white envelope, but Emily felt its weight before opening it. Her fingers trembled as she tore it open, eyes scanning the legal language that cut deeper than any blade. Michael Parker had filed for custody. The room seemed to spin as Emily gripped the table, her breath shallow, rage and fear colliding in her chest. She whispered, "He's not doing this for Lily. He wants to destroy me." Memories of Michael's temper, his absence when Lily cried in the night, and his selfish choices burned through her thoughts. Yet now, on paper, he appeared the one demanding rights. Emily pressed the letter to the table, tears falling as her determination hardened. This wasn't just about legal battles, it was about survival. She would not allow lies to take her daughter away. Inside the courthouse lobby, Emily felt like a small boat in an endless storm. The walls loomed high, echoing with footsteps and whispered judgments. A woman in a sharp suit approached, clipboard in hand, her tone brisk and clinical. The authority figure, a caseworker, asked about Emily's stability, her ability to provide. Each question dug deeper, not about love but about money, schedules, appearances. Emily's voice wavered at first, but she straightened, answering with quiet conviction. I've given Lily everything, even when I had nothing left to give. Still, she saw the doubt in the woman's eyes, the cold weight of bureaucracy judging her worth as a mother. Emily walked away, feeling stripped bare, as though love alone could never be enough in this battle. That evening, Emily met with David Collins, a longtime friend she thought she could trust. They sat in a quiet cafe, steam curling from untouched cups of coffee. At first, his voice carried sympathy, but as he spoke, a shadow crossed his face. He revealed he had been in contact with Michael, passing along details Emily had shared in confidence. Her chest tightened as betrayals settled like ice in her veins. "Why would you do this, David?" she whispered, her voice breaking. He looked away, guilt flickering but not enough to undo the damage. The cafe's warm lights felt cruel, exposing cracks in her fragile circle. Emily left with her heart heavier than before, realizing betrayal didn't only come from enemies, it could also come from the ones she once trusted most. The bills piled higher than Emily's courage that night. She sat at the kitchen counter, envelopes scattered like fallen soldiers of a battle she was losing. The custody case meant lawyers, and lawyers meant money she didn't have. She rubbed her temples, exhaustion pressing down like stone. Lily slept in the next room, unaware of the storm threatening their home. Emily whispered to herself, "I can't fall apart. Not now." Yet the numbers didn't lie, and the walls seemed to close in tighter with every overdue notice. Hunger clawed at her stomach, but she pushed the thought away. Every cent had to go toward survival. She pressed her hand to her chest, grounding herself in the steady beat of her heart. That rhythm was her reminder. She was still alive, still fighting. Later, Emily slipped into Lily's room, drawn by the need for comfort. The moonlight streamed through sheer curtains, casting silver patterns across the floor. Lily stirred in her sleep, curling closer to her pillow, innocence unshaken by the chaos around her. Emily sat beside the bed, her hand brushing through her daughter's curls. The tears she had held back broke free, spilling silently as she whispered, "You are my reason, Lily. I'll endure everything for you." In that quiet, her breakdown became her strength, her sorrow reshaped into fire. The world outside could try to strip her bare, but within these walls, love was her armor. She pressed her forehead against Lily's blanket, feeling the soft rhythm of her child's breath. For that sound alone, Emily vowed she would rise again, no matter the cost. The next morning, Emily's phone buzzed with a message that made her stomach drop. A neighbor had shown her Michael's posts online, claims painting her as unstable, neglectful, unfit to raise Lily. The lies spread like wildfire, each word a blade against her heart. She scrolled through comments, strangers judging her life without knowing her truth. Emily's hands trembled, rage burning hotter than fear. "Hell twist everything to destroy me," she whispered, pressing the phone down on the table. She felt the weight of Michael's cruelty more than ever, his need not just to win custody, but to shatter her entirely. Tears blurred her vision, but resolve soon steadied her. He could try to smear her name, but she knew who she was, and she knew Lily's love was unshakable. That truth was her anchor, no matter how loud his lies became. At work, Emily felt the walls close in tighter than ever. Her supervisor, Mr. Harris, called her into his office. His tone was clipped, his eyes narrowed with skepticism. "Your attendance has slipped, Emily. Clients are noticing." She swallowed, fighting to defend herself. "I'm doing my best," she said quietly, knowing the truth wasn't enough. His reply was cold. "Your best isn't keeping this place afloat." The words struck like blows. Emily left the office shaken, realizing Michael's influence had seeped into her workplace. Whispers followed her through the hall, co-workers' eyes filled with doubt. The job she relied on, the one thing holding her fragile stability, now felt like another battlefield. She pressed her back against the restroom door, gripping the sink to steady herself. Survival meant fighting everywhere, even where she least expected it. The knock at her door that evening was heavier than expected. Emily opened it to find Janet Reed, the social worker assigned to evaluate Lily's environment. Her eyes scanned the apartment with professional detachment, noting the cracked walls, the stack of unpaid bills, the signs of struggle. Emily invited her in, masking her nerves with politeness. Janet's voice was steady, her questions sharp. "Does Lily have a routine? How do you manage finances? Is there support nearby?" Emily answered carefully, her hands twisting in her lap. She spoke of love, of sacrifice, of doing everything for Lily's happiness. But she could see Janet's pen move faster when she faltered. Emily's heart pounded with fear that love would not outweigh appearances. When Janet left, the silence felt suffocating, the apartment itself judged and found lacking. Later that night, Emily confronted Sarah Miller, her confidant, with suspicion gnawing at her. Rumors had reached her that Sarah knew more about Michael's legal plans than she admitted. "Why didn't you tell me?" Emily demanded, her voice shaking with hurt. Sarah's eyes fell, her silence an admission heavier than words. "I didn't want to make it worse," Sarah whispered, but the excuse cut like a betrayal. Emily's chest ached, realizing even her closest ally had hidden truths from her. Trust, already fragile, cracked further in that moment. "I needed honesty, Sarah, not protection," Emily said, tears brimming. Their friendship, once a shield, now felt fractured, weakened by secrets. Emily turned away, gripping her daughter's photograph in trembling hands, wondering if anyone could be trusted in a world where betrayal waited even in familiar faces. After Sarah left, Emily stood in the doorway of Lily's room, watching her daughter sleep peacefully under soft lamplight. The betrayal still burned, but something inside Emily shifted. She realized silence had been her shield for too long, protecting others at the cost of her own voice. "No more," she whispered to herself. "I won't be quiet anymore. Not for him, not for anyone." Her words carried into the stillness, a vow forming stronger than any fear. She stepped closer to Lily's bed, brushing her hair back with gentle fingers. "I'll fight for you, Lily," she said, her voice firm, steady now. The room was quiet, yet her resolve roared louder than the storm outside. For the first time in days, Emily stood taller, carrying not just fear but the fire of defiance. The knock on the door was hesitant, softer than the police or the caseworker. Emily opened it cautiously and froze. Standing there was Evelyn Parker, her estranged sister, the woman she had not seen in over a decade. Time had carved lines into Evelyn's face, but her eyes carried the same sharpness of the past. Emily's breath caught, memories of old arguments and shattered bonds flooding back. "Why now?" Emily whispered, her voice half fear, half anger. Evelyn's gaze softened as she answered, "Because you can't do this alone anymore." Emily felt her knees weaken, torn between relief and suspicion. The past was a wound still tender, but here stood the one person who knew her childhood, her struggles, her scars. Whether ally or danger, Evelyn's return meant change was no longer a choice. It was here. Emily and Evelyn sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the silence heavy with years unsaid. Evelyn broke it first. "I've been watching, Emily. I know about Michael. I know what he's doing to you." Emily's chest tightened, fury flashing through her. "Watching? From where? While I broke myself holding everything together?" Evelyn's eyes glistened, guilt plain. "I stayed away because I didn't think you'd forgive me. But I came back because Lily deserves the truth." Emily's jaw clenched, torn between the comfort of a familiar face and the sting of abandonment. The clock ticked loudly between them, every second stretching their fragile reunion thinner. For the first time in years, Emily saw not just a sister, but a mirror of her own pain. Evelyn's voice dropped lower, carrying secrets Emily had long buried. "Michael's fight isn't about custody, it's about power. He's working with people who know how to twist the system, and I've seen them before." Emily's hands froze mid-motion, her stomach knotting. "How would you know?" Evelyn's eyes shifted, a flicker of shame. Because I used to be part of it. I worked with them, Emily. And I walked away when I realized the damage we caused. The words crashed through Emily's mind like a storm. Betrayal, truth, danger, woven into her sister's confession. Emily's throat tightened, her voice breaking. So you helped build the weapon he's now using against me. Evelyn didn't deny it. She only whispered, and I've come back to help you break it. The past and present collided, leaving Emily dizzy with fear and possibility. Emily paced the room, her thoughts colliding like thunder. Evelyn's confession lingered in the air, heavy and poisonous. Trust had already been fractured by betrayal, and now she was expected to believe the sister who once abandoned her. Evelyn stood quietly, giving her space. You don't have to decide now, she said softly. But if you don't let me help, Michael will tear you apart piece by piece. Emily stopped, hands gripping the back of a chair, her body trembling with fury. She whispered, if I let you in, I'm risking everything again. Evelyn's eyes softened, voice low. Sometimes risk is the only way to survive. Emily turned away, staring at Lily's closed bedroom door. The answer wasn't clear, but the weight of choice pressed down heavier than ever. Hours later, Emily stood at the window, watching the streetlights glow against the quiet night. Evelyn lingered in the doorway, waiting, saying nothing. Emily finally turned, her voice steady, though her chest still ached. I don't trust you, Evelyn. Not yet. But I can't fight this alone. For Lily's sake, I'll take the risk. Evelyn's eyes closed briefly, relief mixing with sorrow. I'll earn it back, she promised. Emily nodded, a fragile agreement formed in the silence. She knew this path was dangerous, that accepting help meant facing wounds long buried. But as she glanced at Lily's door, Emily felt strength rise within her. For her daughter's future, she would gamble everything, even if it meant letting her sister walk beside her again. The courthouse loomed like a fortress, its stone walls casting long shadows across the steps. Inside, Emily sat at the plaintiff's table, hands trembling despite her effort to appear calm. Michael Parker leaned back in his chair, smugness etched across his face, as though the outcome was already his. Emily's lawyer whispered encouragement, but her ears roared with the weight of her heartbeat. Across the room, Lily's photograph sat tucked inside her purse, a talisman of strength. Emily lifted her chin, reminding herself that this wasn't just about her survival. It was about her daughter's future. The judge entered, and silence fell like a heavy curtain. Emily whispered under her breath, "For you, Lily, always." In that moment, fear and resolve fused together. She wasn't just fighting for custody, she was fighting for the very soul of her family. The questioning began. Michael's lawyer spoke with rehearsed venom, painting Emily as unstable, overwhelmed, unfit. Each word slashed at her spirit, but Emily sat upright, refusing to let him see her break. Her lawyer countered with facts, but Michael smirked, confident in his lies. Emily's pulse raced as witnesses were called, some nodding toward Michael's version of events, their words heavy with manipulation. She clenched her jaw, holding her silence, waiting for her turn. When her name was called to the stand, she rose, her legs unsteady, but her gaze firm. She caught Michael's eyes across the room, his expression cocky, certain of victory. Emily took a breath and whispered to herself, "This ends today." With that vow burning in her chest, she swore to reveal the truth, no matter the cost to her heart. Emily gripped the edge of the witness stand, her voice trembling at first as she spoke of sacrifice. She recounted late nights working 2 jobs, the meals skipped to keep food on Lily's plate, the moments of joy built on scraps of hope. Her words wove a tapestry of survival, each thread stronger than the last. The courtroom listened in stillness. But when Michael's lawyer pressed harder, Emily faltered, shame rising from years of self-doubt. Her voice cracked as she admitted her fears, nights when she wondered if she was enough. Michael smirked, satisfied at her weakness. Yet instead of breaking, Emily found strength in honesty. She looked at the judge and said, "I may not be perfect, but I am the one who has always been there for Lily. Love is what makes me fit to be her mother." Confrontation reached its peak when Michael himself took the stand. His words were smooth, carefully crafted lies about his devotion, about Emily's supposed failures. But Emily's lawyer rose with evidence, her records of absence, witnesses to his neglect, proof of his cruelty. The mask on Michael's face cracked, fury replacing smugness. Emily sat rigid, every nerve alight as his web unraveled. He slammed his hand on the stand, shouting that it was all false, but his anger betrayed him. The judge's gavel struck, silencing the outburst, but the damage was done. For the first time, the courtroom saw Michael's true self exposed in raw anger. Emily's breath caught, realization flooding in. This was the moment she had fought for, the moment truth pierced through his lies. The verdict hung in the air as the judge's words filled the courtroom. Emily's chest tightened, her heart racing with each pause. The ruling came, custody awarded to Emily Parker. Tears blurred her vision, relief and sorrow clashing inside her chest. Michael's face twisted, his fists clenching, but his silence was forced by the gavel. Emily's lawyer squeezed her shoulder, whispering congratulations, but Emily barely heard. Her mind raced to Lily, safe at last. She whispered to herself, "We did it, baby. We're free." The courtroom blurred around her as though the world itself paused. For a fleeting moment, she was weightless, lifted by victory, but the scars of battle were carved deep within her. She had won, but she knew the price was far from small. The courthouse doors closed behind Emily, and the cool air rushed over her face like a release. Victory should have felt triumphant, but instead it felt heavy, scarred with every wound endured along the way. Her hands shook as she held Lily's small hand, the warmth grounding her. Around them, life continued. Cars passed, strangers hurried, but for Emily, the world had shifted forever. She whispered, "We did it, Lily. We're safe." Yet even as relief washed through her, she knew this wasn't the end. The scars of betrayal and the battles with Michael would remain etched into her heart. Still, the gavel's echo replayed in her mind like a final stamp of truth. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to breathe deeply, even if the air carried the weight of everything she had lost to gain this moment. Back at the apartment, the silence felt different, no longer suffocating but uncertain, like the pause before rebuilding. Emily placed the custody papers on the table, staring at them as though they were both shield and burden. Her hands traced the edges, knowing they had cost her nights of tears, trust broken, and strength nearly depleted. She whispered, "This is the beginning, not the end." The apartment still bore scars, walls cracked, furniture worn, reminders of chaos. But it was theirs, untouched by Michael's shadow. Lily hummed softly from her room, a fragile song of innocence, and Emily closed her eyes to absorb it. She leaned against the wall, exhaustion nearly buckling her knees, yet her chest rose with steadier breaths. Freedom was not easy, but it was finally theirs to hold. Later that evening, Emily sat on the couch with Lily curled beside her, blanket wrapped around them both. The television flickered, but neither paid it much attention. Instead, Emily listened to Lily's soft laughter as she spoke of school, friends, and dreams untouched by courtrooms. The sound melted the tension coiled in Emily's chest. She stroked her daughter's curls, whispering, "You're my strength, Lily. You always have been." Lily leaned closer, resting her head on Emily's shoulder. And for the first time in what felt like years, Emily smiled. A genuine one, unshaken by fear. The walls no longer seemed to echo with Michael's rage, but with a fragile, blooming peace. Emily knew the journey ahead would still be hard, but in this moment, she let herself believe in joy again. When Lily drifted off to sleep, Emily remained by her side, brushing her hair gently, watching her chest rise and fall in steady rhythm. The quiet was no longer heavy, but soothing, filled with the soft promise of healing. Emily whispered, "I'll face whatever comes next, but you'll never face it alone." Her voice didn't shake this time. It carried certainty. She pressed a kiss to Lily's forehead, feeling the innocence she had fought to protect. Outside, the city hummed, indifferent to their battles. But within these walls, Emily had carved out a sanctuary. Her own pain still lingered, Scars she would carry for years, but they no longer defined her. What defined her now was the vow she had made, and the strength she had discovered. Later that night, Emily stood in the kitchen, staring out the window at the city lights, flickering like distant stars. She placed her hand on Lily's bedroom door, a silent promise resting in the gesture. The apartment was quiet, except for the soft sound of her daughter's breathing, a lullaby stronger than any song. Emily whispered, "We're stronger now, and we'll never stop fighting." A smile spread across her face. Not the mask she had worn for so long, but a real one, fragile yet powerful. The world outside remained uncertain, shadows still waiting, but Emily no longer feared them. She had walked through fire and emerged scarred but unbroken. Tomorrow would bring challenges, but tonight, she allowed herself peace. In the silence, she finally felt free.